Now, there's been some discussions, and I guess the discussion started as soon as the fight ended, or shortly after the fight ended. I think as soon as somebody from Rose's team, I think it was Sucker Punch, made a tweet and they shared the images of Rose's finger. So a lot of discussions have been going on about how much of a factor her finger was. So I went back and watched the fight, and I tried to keep an eye out on when it happened and how much of a factor it was in the fight. And I believe it was a factor in the fight. Now, with that said, that's not that's not the same as making an excuse for the loss. That's not the same. You can acknowledge that a person having a broken finger played a factor in the fight, and acknowledge that the other fighter probably would have won anyways, or that the other fighter who won still would have won even if their finger was not broke. But I do believe it was a factor. Now, you go back and watch the fight. It happened in the first round, and you can clearly see exactly when it happened. It looked like Manon, I don't know if it was her foot or her leg, but she sort of swatted Rose's hand. It didn't happen as Rose threw a punch or after she threw a punch. Rose had her hand by her side. And it was like after Manon threw a strike, her hand literally hit Rose's hand. And you saw Rose she pulled at her pinky, and then she looked at it. And you could tell something was wrong with it, and then she stopped using it. Now, you go back and watch the fight now. This took place in the first round. Go back and watch the fight. What you're going to see is Rose was using both of her hands before the accident. She's throwing punches with both of her hands as she saw fit. And after this injury happened, she started to only look for openings where she could land her left hand. When you start to do that, that then becomes a factor in the fight. Because now you gotta overlook or look past moments where you can land a right hand. You gotta ignore those moments. You see what I mean? So there's no way around admitting that it becomes a factor in the fight. If you break your finger, and let's say you can't make a fist, that will be a factor in the fight. Whether you want to acknowledge that it's a factor or not, that's irrelevant. It's a factor. And it is reducing the quality of your performance, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. You know, that's just how it's going to happen. So, Rose's finger, I believe, was a factor. And it took place early in the first round. And based on that fact, I believe that further reduces Manon's stock. Now, the big question for me is, after last night's card, does either fighter's stock rise or fall? Does either fighter's stock rise or fall? And how much does either fighter's stock rise or fall? You know, a fight can make you look good or not. After Aaron destroyed Andrade, her stock went through the roof. So where are we with stock?
Whoever wins that fight, correct?
Manon, le titre de Flyweight sera décidé dans 2 semaines. Est-ce que tu penses qu'avec cette victoire, c'est à toi de prendre la gagnante après?
Bien sûr, j'ai gagné tous les rounds facilement, j'ai fait un beau combat, j'ai battu une ancienne championne. Bien sûr que c'est à moi.
Absolutely, yeah, of course. I'm the one who needs to take one of these champions, and I deserve a shot at being the champion.
Now, here's what I want to say. Man, listen. And I don't have nothing against any of these fighters. But if I'm being honest, in calling it down the middle, calling it like I see it, I would say Manon is not in her prime. She's 33. She's no longer in her prime, I would say. And on top of that, I would say that she is not the beast that she used to be when she earned that nickname. At least not at the top of the UFC. At this level, Manon is not stopping fighters. That's first of all. She's not stopping them at this level. And she's winning the fights. But it's not comprehensively. She's winning these fights like 40-60. 45-55. She's not 10-8 in these rounds. These rounds ain't 10-8. And listen, man, when you have something like what happened to Valentina when her finger was dislocated, or with Rose when her pinky got broken, not only does that impair your ability to use your right hand or your left hand, it messes up your whole plan. It messes up your confidence, because when your finger broken, you start to feel more vulnerable. You being able to make a fist and throw it comfortably, that's a big part of what's protecting you from your opponent. So when you break a finger, that's like you're breaking your ability to defend yourself. Part of how you defend yourself is using offense. Offense is a big part of defense. And I'm pointing this out not to make no excuse for Rose. I'm pointing this out because I think we need to understand that if this fight happened again, it might not go the same. If they were to have a rematch, Rose might win. I'm sorry, but Rose is looking too comfortable in moments of that fight to me. She's looking too comfortable dealing with Manon. Whereas, and plus you know how goofy Rose is, whereas if that injury not have happened, man, who knows? She probably would have started to get the better of Manon. They were tit for tat early in that fight. They had a chess match. They was having a chess match. And I really can't appreciate that fight at its fullest extent. When one fighter is compromised, then you're not looking at a true contest between those two fighters' skill set. That's just how it is, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. And it's not about making an excuse for one fighter or not. I don't got no reason to make no excuse for none of these fighters. These fighters don't do nothing for me. Nothing. They don't even acknowledge me. Why would I try to make an excuse or run to the defense of any of these fighters? That's just how I'm seeing it. Manon is not stopping nobody. Okay, she ain't stopping nobody. And Rose wasn't even in that much trouble. You don't have to stop your opponent. As long as you have them in a lot of trouble, you'll be feared. And Manon is not really doing that. So, to be honest, in many ways, Erin is looking more impressive right now than Manon. In many ways, she's looking more impressive. Manon's fight against Chookagian was sort of lackluster. You know, she's not living up to her nickname no more. You see, some fighters, when they get to a higher level, they can't live up to their nicknames no more. They're no longer the Beast. They're no longer the Shark. And if all Manon can do right now is outpoint you, and she's not even really overly dominating you in the contest, then she's at a high risk of getting defeated herself, Manon. The way I measure these fighters is how dominant they are. It ain't complicated. It ain't rocket science. How dominant are you? Are you winning or losing? Real simple. You losing a bunch of your fights, okay, I'm not going to have that much belief in you. If you win all your fights, okay. How are you winning? Have you won all of your fights by split decision? Wouldn't that be a factor if you did? You got 20 victories all by split decision. I'm still not going to have much confidence in you, even if you're undefeated. But if you win in all your fights by stoppage, maybe have a few unanimous decisions in there, that's an extremely dominant fighter. Now, Manon might be getting unanimous decisions over Chookagian and over Rose, but the nature of these fights, how they unfolded, I'm not all that overly confident in Manon. I'm not blown away by Manon or nothing like that. She might win the title. She might get the title. But I can see her losing it. My whole point in evaluating fighters like this is to predict whether or not one of them will be a long-reigning champion or the queen of the division. I'm not going to say that it's going to be Manon. Now, of course, we haven't seen much from these fighters, but from what I'm seeing now, I'm not feeling confident in what I'm seeing out of Manon. Now, had she seriously punished Chookagian, and notice how the third round is the strongest round from Rose against Manon. The third round is the strongest round from Chookagian. Wasn't it the strongest round against Chookagian as well? The one round people talking about Rose probably won was the third round. That's 2 rounds after having a broken finger. And you know how goofy Rose is. If Rose is able to have her mind intact and both her fists intact, she could have potentially did a number on Manon. Rose, when things are going her way, is a little more versatile than Manon. Like I said, Rose has more of an ability to walk her opponents down. And she was starting to walk Manon down with a broken finger. I don't like seeing Rose that comfortable and confident in there with nobody, especially if she got a broken finger. With as goofy as Rose is, how easy it is for her mind to fall apart, if she brewing with confidence in the third round with a broken finger, that says something about her opponent. You can't be that destructive. if Rose in there with full of confidence in the third round with a broken finger? Now stop playing dumb and listen here. The goal here is to determine who is the next flyweight queen. The first flyweight queen was Valentina Shevchenko. And by queen, I mean a champion who is seen as having, I will say, cleared out the top of the division. Whenever a champion defeats like the top 5, that's a very well-respected champion. Who will be the next champion to make a historic run? And understand, the record at flyweight is 7 title defenses. If you make 6 title defenses, you may not have broken or even tied Shevchenko's run, but that's still a historic run, and you are still a historic champion. And that is all I think most fighters ask for. They just want to be remembered. After they leave the sport, they want their name to be one of the first names that people bring up when they bring up the sport. So who will be the next champion like that? That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to determine. I can't say it. No, I'm not saying it's going to be Manon. Nope. Or Aaron. To me, they're too flawed. To get a champion like that, man, the fighter really got to look extraordinary. Shevchenko looked extraordinary before she made her title run. She looked superhuman. Manon is not really looking superhuman. She's not getting these stoppages this year. And remember, Valentina was getting stoppages after she made it to the top of the division. No. Now this is what she said. She said, I clearly deserve the title shot. She said, I don't see why I'd fight Aaron. But if I have to, and I don't have a choice, man, she really emphasized that she don't want to fight Aaron before fighting for the title. Why is she in such a rush? Could it be because she feels like she's no longer in her prime and doesn't have much time left? Why is she in such a rush? She's only had 1 fight since her comeback. She's gone for a while with that injury. And even before the injury, she had not had that many fights in the UFC. You know? She talking like she made a Tony Ferguson run before fighting for a title. No. No, y'all got to stop with this entitlement mentality. Thinking y'all earned and deserve something. Shut up. That ain't how it works. You don't get no privileges in no sport like this. No privileges like that anyways. Talking about, now look, she only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights. Before that layoff, she had 5 fights. You know how many girls have had 5 fights without a title shot and haven't had a title shot? And understand, her last 3 fights, she's won by decision. Now, her last 4 fights, she's won by decision. Talking about Manon Fiorot. So that's problematic. That's problematic, you see? Right now, Erin Blanchfield's record, it looks more impressive. That's just the way it is. I mean, at least she has stoppages in her last 4 fights. You see? Oh, she's got a Wikipedia. And she's 24, only 24. She got more time left than Manon. Look at that. Manon. Erin, in her last 4 fights, she won 3 of them by stoppage. You won 1 of them by stoppage. No, none of them. Erin won 3 out of her last 4 fights by stoppage. Manon has won 0 out of her last 4 victories by stoppage. That is a factor. No matter what, that's a factor. And the caliber of Manon's opponents, let's look at that for a minute. Is it really that much greater than the caliber of Erin's opponents? Let's look at it. Now, this is Erin Blanchfield's record right here. And this is Manon's. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Let's go back. Here we go. There we go. This is Manon's. Okay. Now, your most recent 4 fights, I think, is the big thing. Rose, Chukagian, Maya, Silva. Okay. Compared against Santos, Andrade, McCann, Aldrich. Now, clearly, Manon has the more impressive streak. You got Rose, a former champion. Chukagian, former contender. Maya, former contender. Champion, contender. Whereas with Erin, she's beaten a former contender, beaten a former champion, and contender. Right? That matters. Jessica has been a title contender and lost before, and she's been a title contender and won. That means she's made it to the title fight more than once. That's better than just making it to the title fight once. And of course, McCann, Aldrich. But is it that much better? Erin has defeated a former title contender, Taylor Santos. And the thing is, a lot of people thought Santos beat Shevchenko. I think more people believe Santos lost to Erin than they believe Santos lost to Shevchenko. Of course, Andrade. Now, remember, Andrade, when she lost to Erin, I think she had only lost once before that, right? No, she was on a win streak. So, hey, that's a factor. That makes Erin even more worthy of the title shot. Understand, Erin is the one who started that losing streak for Andrade. Andrade was on a 3-fight winning streak before that fight. That's why so many people thought Andrade was going to beat her. I picked Erin in the fight. I said Erin got better fundamentals. When they dusted her off. Okay, that matters. Manon never faced Jessica Andrade on a win streak Jessica Andrade. That's a whole different story. That's a whole different type of fighter. See, when people right now, when they reflect on Andrade, they're reflecting on her after she's lost these 3 fights. No. Where was Andrade at the time of her loss to Blanchfield? And that's all that mattered. So Aaron's win over Andrade carried the most weight post Andrade's loss to Shevchenko. So I don't know, man. I don't know. You go watch. Listen, I'm the last person to try to run to Rose's defense. But the truth is what it is. When you watch that fight, you clearly see exactly when the injury happened. And when the injury happens, notice how Rose starts to only throw her left hand. Now, I have experience throwing my hands in a fight. There are few things more discouraging than not being able to throw one of your only 2 hands. It's very discouraging. When you watch this fight, Rose starts to fight one-handed. She starts to fight one-handed. And I'm just being honest, you don't do that if you don't have to. You're not going to start in the middle of a battle where bullets flying. You're not going to start fighting one-handed just to make people think that your other hand is hurt and disabled. You only do something like that when you have no choice. She started fighting one-handed. And if I'm sticking with the truth, then the truth is that if she had her both of her hands and they were in good condition, she would be performing better. That's just a fact. And that's the case with a lot of fighters. Now, I know that there have been some fighters who've been injured in the fight, say they had a broken hand or broken, and they kept fighting and they won the fight. Good for them. Good for them. And I'm happy they won. But that does not mean that that fighter's performance has been impaired. Their performance has still been impaired by their broken hand. Whether you get the victory or not, your performance becomes impaired. You're not fighting as efficiently as you would be if you could throw both of your hands. Now, Rose threw her right hand a couple times. Oh my goodness. People, I hate to tell you to do this, but break one of your fingers and then try to punch, say, a heavy bag with that same fist as hard as you can. And you tell me if you're able to hit that bag as hard as you would have hit it if your finger wasn't broken. A punch from a person with a broken finger, there's a good chance it won't have even half the power it would have if the finger wasn't broken. Okay, it's not about making excuses. It's about me recognizing that Manon would have had a lot more problems with Rose had Rose not broken her finger. Manon would have had more problems with Rose than she had. So it's all about me trying to measure a fighter's performance and caliber based on the circumstances of the fight. So I have to factor that or Rose's broken finger. That's part of the logistics of the fight, man. I don't have nothing to do with it. It's not even me. That's just the fact. Now, Aaron feels like size played a difference. Maybe it did. I'm sure size was a factor too. Manon is very big for flyweight. Okay, I'm pretty sure it was a factor to some extent. But I don't know if that would have, if the fight would have unfolded like that had the injury not occurred. Because what if Rose won the fight? Then what would we be saying? Oh, Rose, a great fighter. Okay, some things you only hear after a fighter loses. Right? Like a broken... Now, who knows? We may have heard about this broken finger even if she won. We do hear about injuries after a fighter wins a fight. And, but in this case, it is what it is. That it had to have been a factor to some extent. And I'm saying Manon should have been able to stop Rose. Fragile-minded Rose, broken finger in a higher weight class against Manon Fiore of all people. She got a broken finger now. Now you need to stop her. That's not the type of fight where Rose's strongest round is the third round. That's supposed to be her weakest round. Especially at home in France. But no, in that third round, the fact is the fact. Manon was on her bike more than she was in the first two rounds. That's just how it is. Did I pick Andrade over Aaron? No, did I? I don't think so. Andrade? Did I pick Andrade? No. No. Because I came back and I said, well, I might have. Maybe you're right. But I do remember saying that Andrade might be in a lot of trouble because Aaron uses a jab and she has straight shots. And Andrade always had a problem with straight punches, straight strikes, period. She's always had problems with that. And I looked at the film, I saw Aaron throws straight shots. Many of them are perfectly straight. And no matter, even if you're slow, it's going to give Andrade problems. And I got on, I started talking about that. I probably did pick Andrade, but I thought I changed my pick and picked Aaron. But that was Andrade on a win streak. Manon didn't face an Andrade on a win streak. And it was a 3-fight win streak. And it was coming off that destruction of Lauren Murphy. So her reputation was intact. Andrade's reputation was very healthy. And it was taken by Blanchfield. And then Yan Xiaonan. Then Tatiana Suarez. All right, whole different situation. Now, wait a minute. What'd she say here? Thought Manon's going to win. I knew she was bigger. Knew she was going to be hard to take down. Knew she was probably going to outstrike Rose. Another thing. Some people thought that Rose went for that takedown in the first round because she was getting hit so much. I thought she went for that takedown because she broke her finger. That's what it seemed like to me. Honestly, it seemed like Rose didn't seem overwhelmed by Manon striking. Maybe I'm wrong, but she didn't seem overwhelmed. She didn't seem discouraged until she broke her finger. to me. It looked like she was getting into it before the incident with the finger. She took a good shot from Manon. It was shaping up to be a good technical fight, I thought. And then I felt robbed. I felt robbed of a good technical fight. Somewhat because of that finger. I like to see both fighters at their best. I don't want anything to impair either one of them. That way you get an accurate read of who's better. Because the fact is, some fights, one fighter destroys the other, then they have a rematch, then it goes the opposite way. Because you have a whole bunch of different factors in fights. You know, that's just what it is. She said that she knew Manon would outstrike Rose. She said we still need to see how the Shevchenko-Grasso fight goes. If Grasso wins again, it will definitely be one of us fighting for the title. If Valentina wins, I don't know if they're going to want to do a rematch, right? A trilogy if Shevchenko wins. I feel like it depends on how she wins. If Shevchenko goes out here and destroys Grasso, punishes her like for 2 or 3 rounds, and I mean really punishes her and then stops her, no rematch. No rematch. People would just say, oh, Shevchenko is just off. And they'll say, it's about time Shevchenko had an off night. That's all they'll say. They'll just chalk that up as nothing. Yeah, I think it'll be one of them fighting for the title. But what will the other fighter do while the other one fights for the title? Let's say Manon gets the title shot. Okay, what's Aaron going to do? Fight somebody else? Or just sit on the sidelines and wait for her shot? I don't know. Grasso and Shevchenko will fight in a week, 2 weeks? I think like 2 weeks from now, and we will see. But there's something about Manon. She strikes me as a person, a fighter, who understands she's getting old. 33, for some athletes, depending on how much wear and tear you got on you, some people 33 is kind of old. You know, she's getting up there. And some of these girls who've been fighting for a long time, and right now they're around 24, 25, 26, they might come in here and destroy you. Like a Macy Barber, like a Natalia Silva, like an Aaron Blanchfield. I'm just pulling my hair out, little hair I got, trying to figure out who's going to be the next boss of this division. And I always lean towards the younger fighters who's showing a lot of promise. Because the older fighters, obviously, there's less of a chance they're going to rule the division. You ain't about to make no 6 title defenses. And right now, you 33 years old. I doubt it. Especially with fighters like Natalia Silva coming up here, Karine Silva coming up here, and even Macy Barber. I'm not about to sit here and trust no 33, 34-year-old fighter. Especially a 33-year-old fighter who's still draining herself to make 125. And you have been stopping fewer and fewer fighters. No. I'm going to lean towards the younger, fresher fighters. So I think there's more of a chance that the Natalia Silvas, Karine Silvas, Aaron Blanchfields, some of the younger fighters, Macy Barbers, it's more likely that some of them take over. Well, one man's opinion. Just like John Jones. Somebody mentioned John Jones. And you look at how long he's been in the game. He's talking about retirement now. Even though he's looking like he's still in his prime, he knows he's an older man now. But yeah, he broke his toe after a victory. Had a badly broken toe. So you can't play the what if game in an already done fight. You can play down Manone's ability to be a long reigning champion, but Rose lost this fight not on the excuse of a broken pinky finger. Wait a minute. He said you can play down Manone's ability to be a long reigning champion, but Rose, it's not about Rose. See, you notice I didn't mention Rose as having a better chance of being a long reigning champion at 125. I mentioned Aaron Blanchfield's, Natalia Silva, Karine Silva. Nobody said nothing about Rose. This discussion I'm having here is not about Rose. And it's not about that fight. It's about the information I gathered from that fight. No matter if you're a Rose fanatic, information was gathered from that fight. You can acknowledge that or not. That's up to you. But the fact is, all of us gathered information, not only from that fight, but from other fights and from all the facts. The fact is, it's less likely that a fighter who's got a pretty extensive fight history, currently at age 33, is going to be the next long reigning champion. It's less likely they're going to do it than one of these young fighters who are also well-rounded, who also have effective striking and ground game. Right? Now, Manone is still a player in the game. She still may very well win the title. What's the difference between winning it and being the next queen? Okay, will she be a historic champion? Carla, for example. Nobody's going to remember Carla as a champion. No, she's not going to be remembered as one of the all-time greats. A lot of people make fun of her title reigns, both of them. And, talking about how she could never defend it. So, if you picked Carla to be a long reigning champion, you would have got that prediction wrong. So I'm not going to pick Manone. If she was stopping fighters, that would give me something to worry about. It's only common sense. If Manone was up here at the top of the division breaking chicks' legs like Silva is down there, yeah, then I'd be like, uh-oh, y'all better be careful. She's not stopping girls no more. Not only is she not stopping them, she's having competitive rounds against fighters. I'm talking about Manone. That ain't downplaying. That's recognizing the facts. Okay, that's the difference between me and other channels. I don't have to rally against fighters. This is just a fact. She's having competitive rounds with fighters. I'm going to lean more towards the fighters who are not having competitive rounds, who going out here steamrolling their opponents quite naturally. MMA, boxing is very simple. These are simple sports to predict. And you have to acknowledge stuff like this. You got to put your personal like or dislike for particular fighters to the side. So right now, 125 looks a lot like 115 to me, where it's gotten so competitive that there's no longer a clear-cut queen of the division. Before Shevchenko made her title run, a lot of people predicted a long title run. And I know everybody remembers that. It's like, oh, man, I don't know who's going to beat her. Nobody's going to beat her. I remember people were saying stuff like, just give Shevchenko the belt. But before she kills somebody, just hand it to her before she kills somebody. They're saying that after she fought Priscilla Cachoeira. And of course, after a fight like that, there are going to be people making statements like that. But we predicted it. And what? It happened. So the thing now is, what's the next big prediction? See, now it's a lot more difficult to predict something like that. It was pretty easy back then. You had all these new fighters, these fighters coming straight off of Tough, and all these, some of them look like they came off a bus stop and a homeless shelter. So it's like, Shevchenko. This is Shevchenko's division. It was easy back then. But now it's much more difficult to make a prediction like that. And that's why fewer people are trying to make a prediction like that. Yeah. Okay. So do you think they will make Rose Santos? And that's what I'm talking about. Fights like that, that's not going to go well for Rose. Rose is fairly easy to get a hold to. Fairly easy. And she'll get grappled to death at 125. These bigger girls and these grapplers like Taylor Santos, I'd take Santos in that fight. No, I don't know if they'll make that fight, but I'd take Santos. And honestly, Rose has still not really fought a ground fighter yet. Even with Madone. The last wrestler Rose fought, she had historically probably the worst fight in history. That was against Carla. Before she fought Carla, we were talking about how she has not fought a wrestler yet since she lost to Carla. That's the crazy thing about Rose's career, is that we really haven't even seen her really go at it against these ground fighters, these wrestlers, jiu-jitsu practitioners yet. We still haven't, but we have with Carla, but that was a rematch, and we saw what happened. Here against Manon is a good ground fighter, somewhat, but she didn't try to make it a ground fight. What happens when Rose gets in there, especially at 125, against a fighter who wants to make it a ground fight? I think she's going to be in trouble. If it's Aaron, if it's Taylor Santos, she's going to be in trouble. So, and that's at 120. If she go back to strawweight, she's going to have the same problem, at least with Tatiana Suarez and Weili Zhang. But at least she has beaten Weili twice, so she got confidence there, and she might do that. But still, Suarez is there. You ain't gonna hide from Suarez. You see, and who knows if Rose gets in there with Amanda Lemos might turn into Khabib herself. There's a lot of fighters with ground fighting ability that I think is just, and Rose's ground fighting ability is not that bad, but it's just that she runs away from ground fighting. She tries to avoid it. It's like she learns it just enough so she can avoid engaging in it. And there's a lot of fighters who do that. That's Israel. He learns wrestling and practices wrestling just so he can escape it and avoid it and get the fight back in the center of the cage, which is smart, but you're not a complete fighter when you do that. Now you still got Carla. Carla's still at the division, which is Rose's kryptonite. That's what I'm saying. This is why I thought Rose is getting ready to retire. Because right now in Rose's career, it's much different than it was when she was being guided up through the division, carefully avoiding ground fighters and wrestlers so that they could strategically get Rose a title shot. She conveniently maneuvered past Claudia and these other wrestlers. This is after she got choked out by Carla. So her career right now it's like night and day. It's the complete opposite. So I'm thinking, okay, now it's about time for her to retire. She's made her money. You won the title. You've made some money. You can move on and do sponsors. You don't have to take these last few little whoopings that you're going to take, and you know she about to take it. I was just talking about how we're about to see her take some losses, a bunch of losses, and we've already got started. And she can't avoid these wrestlers. We're about to see her get wrestled up, choked out. Now you got Verna. What if Verna makes her way up there? How you see that fight working out between Rose and Verna? What if Verna get her down? What if Mackenzie Dern get her down? Now listen, I'm not saying that I want Rose to retire. If Rose continues to fight and she fights and her head is in it, then I'm happy. But if I'm predicting it, I don't know. I don't know now. I got that prediction wrong. I thought she would retire, but she's still fighting, obviously. Listen, I don't mind watching Rose. I think, she's a good fighter, and she has interesting fights. I like to see how her style matches up against other fighters, just like with all the other fighters. So if she want to test her skill set against people at 125 or wherever she go, hey, I'm down. Just fight. If you're going to show up, just don't have no mental breakdown. Get in there staring at each other. That's not what I'm paying for. Okay, I know what to spend my money on if I want to watch people staring at each other. Oh, Lord. All right, what am I talking about? Look at this at 125. Right now, if I'm being honest, I got more confidence in Karine Silva and Natalia Silva at making the most title defenses, if I'm being honest. But they have not faced as high level competition as Manon, as even Erin Blanchfield. Fighters up at the top have faced tougher competition. But, and maybe I'm taking the easy way out, but I'm just trying to show you the obvious. If any fighter was at the top of the division, making it look as easy as Silva and Karine are making it look right now, that's a no-brainer. Who's going to be the next boss of the division? But the way it is now, it's a mess. And it's hard. It is harder than it has ever been to predict anything and everything. That's it. That's my problem. Even fight to fight now, because a lot of these fighters are making dramatic changes fight to fight. Some of them are becoming like terrible overnight. I don't know. They get involved in different things. They're not as focused. Some of them get a whole lot better overnight. These fights are getting harder to predict. But right now, predicting the next boss of any division is more difficult than it has ever been. Now, it's pretty easy to predict the fighters who will be a top fighter, in the division. We all predicted Manon. We predicted Erin. But I have a hard time seeing Natalia and Karine both not become a top fighter. Because remember, in the regional division, they were top fighters. And generally, fighters who are top fighters at the regional level with a lot of experience at the regional level does fairly well. Usually, not always. But we'll see. I was talking about the aura of invincibility, that Shevchenko was the last fighter to have an aura of invincibility. And the thing is, it's very useful to have it because they tend to make your fights easier. A lot of times your opponent is defeated before the fight even starts. They're that terrified of you. I'll never forget that. Everybody remember that story about Mike Tyson. I think he was about to fight Spinks. Spinks was in his locker room, terrified, scared to death. You can see it all over his face as he walked toward the cage. And mentally, you can be defeated before the fight. Now, when you have, excuse me, a reputation of breaking chicks' legs and stopping chicks in the first round, understand, Karine Silva has a Ronda Rousey type rep right now in the UFC, which is extremely rare. If she stays on the path she's on, expect the UFC to promote the hell out of Karine Silva. I am telling you now, they're going to call up Ronda Rousey. They're going to beg Ronda Rousey to shout out Karine Silva. They're going to project her as the next coming of Ronda Rousey. Look at her UFC record. She stopped so many girls all in the first round, just like Ronda Rousey. You watch what I tell you. The UFC, they do not miss no opportunity to make money. Oh, no. I got Tracy in that fight. Tracy Cortez against Jasmine. I got Tracy in that fight. I think Tracy will be a top fighter. Remember, Tracy is the only fighter to defeat Karine. Is it Karine Silva? Karine Silva, right? I think it's Karine Silva. Only loss. Yeah, I'm going to take Tracy in that fight. But you watch what I tell you. You watch what I tell you. They're going to get Ronda Rousey memories, nostalgia all over again. Like, oh my goodness, look at the record. Oh, look at the record. They're going to have side-by-side little projectiles. Oh, look at the record of Karine Silva. Now, look over here, the record of Ronda Rousey. This is the second coming of Ronda Rousey, people. You can hear Dana. Oh, God. You watch. And now, if that prediction comes true, I'm about to cheerlead for Karine Silva just to see if that comes true. You know, because it's rare. I have to admit, it's rare for any fighter to do that in the UFC right now. To have a long win streak where you win by stoppage in every fight that you win. And you win every fight that you have. And that's the streak that Karine is on right now. She has won all her UFC fights, 4 so far, and won all by stoppage in the first round. Isn't that right? So, you know, it's hard to do all 3 of those at the same time. Hard to get a finish, especially for the women, especially in the first round. And to be on the first round stoppage streak, you know, at that point, that's difficult for the men. You know, the most recent heavyweight to have a record like that, you see where he is. He's at the top of the UFC heavyweight division. Well, he shot up fast. You know, a record like that, that's a bomb reputation. That's why I say a lot of with fighters' records, with their resume, it can carry it can help them, you know, get title shots, opportunities, sponsors, all kind of stuff. But yeah, I will admit, I have no shame. I don't know who is going to be the next boss. But for anybody who thought I might say Manon Fiorot or even Valentina Shevchenko. Look, man, it's just mathematically. This is not personal. It just looks like Shevchenko is not going to be a long-reigning champion. Mathematically, Santos was able to just muscle her around. Santos couldn't muscle Aaron around, right? She couldn't. She could not muscle Aaron around. So why wouldn't Aaron be able to muscle Shevchenko around? I don't know. Yeah. This is a whole different crop of fighters now. On top of that, these girls are a lot younger than Shevchenko. You got the Aarons of the world, Taylor the Manon Fiors of the world. Man, these new crop of fighters is going to give Valentina all kinds of trouble. It's going to give her all kinds of trouble. Not to mention, you still got Alexa Grasso there. She's still got Alexa Grasso problems. And who knows what kind of problems Valentina might have. She get that belt back, make 1 or 2 title defenses, Tatiana Suarez might pop back up. Then what? Then what, man? I think I'm starting to think Valentina's, her weakness is the ground. It's the ground. Fighters are taking her back easily. They're getting her down easily. You know, why didn't Sayla toss Aaron around like she tossed Valentina around? Because she couldn't? Okay, so what will Aaron do to Valentina? Hey, I'm worried about Valentina. I'm worried about her in that fight. Now, she does have the skill set to dominate Aaron in any other fighter. But that's a whole different discussion from whether or not she's going to be able to use it, those skill sets, to dominate them. So that is what it is. So, yeah, I don't have no picks. I don't have no theory, none of that. Yeah, I'm lost. Yeah, that's the thing. Valentina could submit Aaron. She could submit Taylor Santos. You know, we just don't know. Don't know what's going to happen. It's just hard. Nobody really stands out tactically or nobody really stands out from the pack. Valentina used to stand out from the pack. But if you remember, there was a whole different crop of contenders at the time. You really didn't see anybody. But even back then, we saw people who were not ranked, who were ranked low, who could probably give Valentina problems. Some of them are up giving her problems right now. So, yeah, it's not a far-fetched prediction. Oh, and I still feel the same way about that horrible fight. Man, who is this girl right here? No, this is not her. This is not her. She was not as bad as that other girl. Right here. Oh, God. Cavalcanti. Let me keep my mouth shut. Listen, man, if you ain't gonna say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. But, man, UFC, if y'all ever do that again, y'all better not ever put Dos Santos on a card ever again, man. That better be her last fight, if any promotion organization. Oh my goodness. That Sarah Fern. Oh my goodness, it is crazy. Just watching her fight is such an experience, man. But she should have been able to stop her, this Cavalcante. You should have been able to stop that crazy chick. Oh God. Let me get off of here. I'm having too much fun. I will see y'all on the next live stream.